we heard Kyle Shanahan talk about the limited number of plays that they ran. I think he said 12 plays of 7-on-7, 10 plays of team, so not a lot. Garoppolo 2 of 2 passing, Trey Lance 2 of 3 passing. There are a couple times where he was actually asked directly about the quarterbacks, and you heard him talk about Jimmy and Trey, and then it was like, oh, all the guys, but it was Jimmy and Trey. So do we get anything we can glean from the way Kyle Shanahan talked about the quarterbacks?
Well, I saw on my Twitter timeline yesterday, and I laughed. Mac Jones is wearing number 50, and I thought it was kind of a big deal. And then a bunch of New England Patriot fans DM'd me after I posted on Insta Story, kind of just being funny, that Bill always does that. And I guess we've never noticed it because Bill doesn't usually have quarterbacks that matter, that he gives them 50s and 60s numbers, regardless what position you play. And that's a big thing with Bill. Now, Bill's really old school. And I asked, we talked about, what would that have been on Monday's pod? How's Kyle going to handle this? And I would not have blamed him because I think he comes from an old school football family where you just start him last. That's kind of Bill's deal, right? Now, that can be start last for a day, a week of practice. You don't have to start him for a long time, right? This isn't John Wooden, Bill Walton, or Kareem's going to play on the JV team for a year. But Kyle doesn't give a shit. And I would say most coaches now, I'd say even Bill is a little bit of an outlier still doing stuff like that, though I actually appreciate it, like making him wear number 50. Because he's had a lot of success making guys do that, right? But Kyle's not playing those games. And I'm not trying to compare the two. I'm just saying that, I wouldn't, if you would have told me that Josh Rosen got the reps or Nate Sudfeld, I would have not said Kyle's crazy.
Right.
You got to earn it. It's the NFL. He's not playing that game. And I think we had talked about it wouldn't be weird for him to start with the twos because, what's the elephant in the room? They flip-flop picks and traded 2 extra ones. Trent Williams knows that. George Kittle knows that. Kyle Juszczyk knows. They all saw it happen. There's no – even with Mac Jones, he did just fall to them. I think when you trade up the farm, even, players understand if you just trade a 1 for a player, but the amount, they understand how much they just dealt for this guy.
Yeah.
What's the point, And clearly, I don't know if he would have just thrown him out there if he wasn't truly mentally ready and making a fool of himself. Maybe he would have and just let him learn. It clearly doesn't feel like Kyle's worried about that.
No, and one thing on that, by the way, here's a tweet from Chris Biederman, who said, not much to glean from the battle today. 5 reps in full team drills for Garoppolo, 6 reps for Trey Lance. So there's just you're in a short amount of reps. There's the meat of your reps. One thing Shanahan said, right, was you do just want to, you're putting a guy out there in a shotgun in a position he's never been. You're asking him to call a play in the huddle in a way that he's never called a play in a huddle before. So you do want to see how he handles those basic things. And I thought he handled them well, but it's not anything dramatic. The key is you throw a bunch of stuff. I try not to judge guys too much in OTAs. This is Kyle, right? He said, I try not to judge guys too much in OTAs. You just throw a ton of stuff at them. You let them go for 40 days. Then you come back, and then you really start to see what you got. What were they able to retain from what you gave them? And how did they get better in the time they were gone? So that's part of this would be a waste, right? It turned listening to him talk. Part of it would be a waste if he's throwing all that stuff at Josh Rosen and Nate Sudfeld. There's not a lot of reps. He'd be doing Trey Lance a disservice. He'd be doing himself a disservice if he really wants to have any chance of seeing a competition when camp begins.
It's the right thing to do. And I even using the Mac Jones parallel, Mac played how many games this year? It felt like 15, right? Alabama.
Yeah.
He got Trey did not play this season. So his reps just as a player were all workout reps, right? He just trained in LA or wherever he was training. And then the offseason was basically just an extension. His lead up to the draft was basically an extension of his fall. Where Mac and Justin Fields and Zach Wilson played seasons, right? So they are in football mode. Where him, what do we got, right? He did play the 1 game in the fall, but it's not even fair to judge him on that thing. And he's such a young player that, you should just let him go. I guess my overall point, though, is some coaches might have handled it a little different. And I do think some old school coaches have probably just changed their mentality over time. Because I think Saban is a good example. It was probably much harder on the 2003 LSU team for a freshman to crack the starting lineup. And I bet if you talk to him in 2003 or 2004 in his LSU office, and he was getting legit dudes out of high school, the way he would talk about offense and younger players is dramatically different than if me and you were sitting in Saban's offense now and talking to him, right?
Yeah.
You progress. And where I think Belichick, he still has like the McCourties, Hightower, like core guys on his team. Like there is a standard there, the way they do things, that all of a sudden like rookies don't have to wear 50s. If I'm Dante Hightower, I'm like, what the hell, man? Right? That's just part of the culture.
You're saying he's got people who've been there, like quote unquote, the whole time, who would notice if the culture loosened or changed.
Well, if I'm Devin McCourty, it's like, well, when I was a rookie,
and it worked.
I'm going to get my number retired here one time. I wore 66 in OTAs, and I've been a 10-year starter for the program. Right?
How does it feel if you're you know what sucks about that? If you're the actual guy that wears 66 and you're like, wait a second, I'm the starting right guard. That's my real number. And this guy's wearing that number as a joke. It's bullshit.
The thing with offensive linemen, I don't really care.
You're the middle linebacker. I wear 50 and you guys think it's funny that this guy's wearing 50. That's my real number. You guys, I'm offended.
That guy might get worked up.
It's a good point. I mean, I think, over time, a couple things have changed. The urgency and really the proficiency with which young players contribute. There's an urgency to play them because, careers are shorter, pressure is – well, not careers aren't shorter. I mean, coaching tenures are more tenuous. And you're making – even if you're not making free agent money right away, you are making $6 million right away, right? That's not the most on the team, and it's not a lot by quarterback standards, but we are just paying you a lot of money. Our preference would be that the money we're paying you goes to you actually improving and maybe even being ready to play. So that's one aspect of it. And I also think we've seen it in recent years. Kyle's done it with a rookie where RG3 played right away. You do want to know what you have sooner rather than later.
Yeah,
and
I'm all for it.
And here's the other thing with Jim, even if you're not thinking about trying to get Trey Lance to win the job, you do need him to be ready to be your backup quarterback because Jimmy Garoppolo's been hurt.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point with the finances. You have to look at everything, what's best for your football team, but these are clearly your two best quarterbacks, and you're factoring in Jimmy makes 2021. This kid, whenever he officially signs, is going to be 6'7". Technically, he's going to get a big bonus and it gets prorated, but, it's going to average out to $6-7 million a year. Like, look at your investment. Those guys, and rightfully so, deserve every rep. Sucks, and this guy's career is closer to over than it is resurrected, but, we don't need to see one Josh Rosen pass. Right? If you're Kyle. I mean, I'm just saying, eventually, when I have an unlimited amount of reps at practice, he can battle to be the 3, or him and Sudfeld or whatever, but, I'm not worried about him, right? And that's the thing. You and I were talking yesterday after the pod, I think, about the transfer portal, and these are things that college coaches would have to think about. We got to get this kid a rep too. We got to get this guy a rep.
Yeah,
that's the best part about the pros. It's like your contract is your feelings, right? Unless you're Aaron Rodgers.
Then you're.
But even it is. But I'd say Gutekunst would say, well, yeah. I mean, we don't have to trade you, buddy.
Well, and
your contract, there is no transfer portal.
Yeah, look, if Aaron had signed a brand new extension last year with a bunch of guaranteed money, his contract he'd feel differently.
Yes.
Right? It represents. On YouTube, TWM06 says, if Jimmy gets injured in the preseason, does Trey Lance 100% start week 1? I would think so. I mean, we got to see a little bit just to make sure. If you're Kyle, you want to see just a base level of preparedness. But I would think, given that Kyle has before adjusted what he intends to do generally to start a rookie right away and succeed with RG3, I don't think there'd be much question about it. It'd be a bad sign if Josh Rosen or Nate Sudfeld's rolling out there, right?
Well, put it this way. Josh Rosen spent last year on a practice squad. Nate Sudfeld is viewed so highly that when he came into the game week 17, the entire NFL landscape thought the Eagles were tanking, guy. That's the way it worked. They thought the Eagles were tanking. Those are your two options beside Trey Lance. So I'd say unequivocally 1,000,000% period point blank, Trey Lance would start. And today, guy, they don't even know what they're doing yet, and he's already out there. So good sign.